No chance. Sean Cook, yeah.
Turn it off or on?
I told him to make a rescue. That's running next sport.
Dr. Hall, where's your friend?
I texted him. He says, oh yeah, just hurry. Yeah, show ass.
It's gonna make it awkward when we get here down the line.
Better just stop him there.
I was fine.
When he walks in, just clap.
Yeah.
All right, I'll call this meeting to order at 6:30. We'll do the pledge of allegiance. Jason Dial, will you lead us in the pledge, please?
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, next on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda.
If possible, I would like to add between E and F, one agenda item, high school secure main entry for a discussion, possible action.
Okay, so we would take a, can I do a motion to
Yes.
approve the consent agenda with the amendment that you presented to add the high school main entry as an item that's between E and F on the discussion action? And along with that, the motion to approve the financial summary, fund balances, the May 18th and the June 2nd, 2021 regular meeting minutes, authorization for payment of bills minus impressions, and approval of in the proposed agenda with that amendment. I will take that motion if somebody wants to make one. Seth makes the motion. Do I have a second? Chance seconds. Any discussion?
Bus drivers,
Yeah.
they haven't paid June.
Yeah. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Carries 7-0. All right, so now we'll take a motion to approve the payment of bills to impressions. I'll take a motion. Seth makes a motion. Do I have a second? Dan seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carries 6-0 with one abstention. Brandon. I'd like to recognize the visitors. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Appreciate it. And next is the Ava Board Spotlight. Oh, I'm sorry, MSBA Board.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Missouri School Boards Association's Board Report for the month of June. We thank you for the opportunity to share some news and information during a few minutes of your board meeting. We begin with a look at the recently completed regular session of the Missouri General Assembly, a session that included the passage of a bill establishing the state's first ever tax credit voucher program. The bill initially authorizes $25 million in tax credits for donations to what's called an education assistance organization that would provide scholarships to students attending home, private, virtual, or public schools. MSBA strongly opposed the bill for allowing taxpayer dollars to be used to pay fees and tuition to private or home schools that are not accountable to the public. Despite that disappointing vote, there were some successes during the session, including the defeat of legislation that would have expanded charter schools beyond St. Louis and Kansas City, and attempts to move school board elections to the November general election day. MSBA Associate Executive Director for Advocacy, Mike Reed, says school board member contacts with legislators made a difference on those and other issues.
And I really appreciate all of our members going out and hammering their representatives and their senators about that bill. And in fact, hammering them on the ESA bill. After the ESA bill passed the House, I was told by more than one representative, that's it. We're not going to pass another education bill because we don't want to be hammered by our constituents. So our members did a great job in getting the word out. We just need to keep holding representatives and senators' feet to the fire and when they say they're representing education and they're trying to help your district, make sure that they are.
MSBA's positions on state and federal education issues are determined by the delegate assembly that will be meeting this coming November. If your school board has a position statement on an issue you would like to submit to the advocacy committee for consideration, you can do so. The advocacy committee reviews those proposals and makes recommendations to the delegate assembly that determines MSBA's positions on the issues. The deadline for submitting a new or revised position statement is September 1st. Economic development tax abatements given to businesses cost Missouri public school districts more than $130 million a year in fiscal year 2019, according to data collected by a group called Good Jobs First. MSBA has advocated for many years to reform tax abatements that have a significant impact on school district revenue, including allowing local voters the opportunity to opt out of tax abatement projects impacting funding for public schools, and giving school boards veto power over their portion of any tax abatement project. Good Jobs First Executive Director Greg Leroy tells us that rather than granting tax abatements, investing in schools is the smart economic development strategy.
If you disinvest your public sector, and obviously at the top of the list is schools, but it also means infrastructure and parks and quality of life and public safety now with the pandemic. If you disinvest the public sector, you make it hard to attract reinvestment in the private sector, right? Because if you're expecting to attract companies with good jobs in the information age technology now, you gotta have great schools. You're not gonna attract families to transfer into an area with marginal schools, for example, or marginal quality of life.
Leroy urges school boards to advocate for their revenue sources.
I think that school board leaders are uniquely positioned to become business climate crusaders for Missouri. I think you can make a very compelling case that by defending funding for schools and in protecting the quality of your schools, by protecting your funding base, you can grow the state's economy better than giving away the store.
Good Jobs First is a nonpartisan, nonprofit group that promotes accountability in economic development. It's no secret that teachers are the biggest school-based factor in student success, and the single most influential component of an effective school. And it's also no secret that recruiting and retaining teachers remains a significant challenge for school districts throughout Missouri and the nation. That's especially true as we emerge from the COVID-19 pandemic. To help address the issue, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has announced a $50 million investment to grow Missouri's teacher workforce. That money is available through federal COVID-19 relief funds. DESE will make $10,000 grants available to school districts to establish or expand Grow Your Own programs that encourage high school students to consider teaching as a career, along with grants to implement strategies designed to improve teacher retention. We recently spoke to a graduating senior who plans to become a teacher, Marion Binion from the Camdenton School District.
I've loved being at school and just experiencing that. I've had a lot of opportunities being able to teach other people, and being able to help other people reach their full potential has just been really insightful to me. Just helping people find their passions is just what I've been really focused on, and that's what I want to do.
Marion was among the students who participated in a signing ceremony for those graduating seniors in Camdenton who are pursuing a college degree in education. MSBA encourages Missouri students to consider pursuing a career in education. Make your plans now to attend the 2021 MSBA Annual Conference in cooperation with the Missouri Association of School Administrators to be held November 4th through 7th in Kansas City. The event will once again feature more than 100 sessions and workshops, many presented by school leaders from districts throughout the state, all in our new location at the Kansas City Convention Center. Registration information for the conference will be posted on the MSBA website. And don't forget the 2021 Safe Schools and Colleges Forum, sponsored by MSBA Center for Education Safety, that will be held this year on November 4th in conjunction with the annual conference in Kansas City. That's it for this month's edition of the MSBA Board Report. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and so long from Columbia.
All right, so next is public comments. It doesn't look like we have anybody signed up for public comments. So we are on to Ava Board Spotlight.
So obviously this year, attendance at ball games, obviously with COVID and our activities, whether it be band, not everybody felt comfortable coming into that larger crowd. So I want to honor two individuals that have probably done as much for Ava Athletics in the last several years, but for sure the last year, to ensure that moms and dads and grandpas and aunts and uncles and nieces could listen to their relatives play. Like I said, whether it be a football game, a basketball game, or a band concert. Tyson Hathcock with TDH Media. Tyson has, come on up Tyson, has started his own business, has lots of experience, works with the Cardinals, with MSU, but started his own business, TDH Media, and videos all of our games, or many of our games, whether they be home or away. He spends a lot of nights in gyms and across southwest Missouri. And the voice of TDH Media, sometimes, Tyler Watterson, and the voice of KKOZ. TDH and KKOZ have a great partnership. I just want to thank these two for what they do. They are Ava Bears through and through. They have done an outstanding job. If I can't make it to a ball game, I have a subscription with Tyson, or I turn it to 92.1, and I'm not sure how Tyler gets through games sometimes, because he gets as excited as the coach does on the sideline. Anyway, it is something to listen to if you've not listened to it, but I just want to thank them publicly for what they do for our athletic department. And KKOZ broadcast the band concert this spring, and just sometimes they had 2 or 3 things going on at once, and they were on 2 different channels and breaking in. So I just appreciate you guys and what you've done. Anytime you have to bring your phone, you have to take pictures.
I will say we couldn't do what we do without help with school, the administration, coaches, make everything easy for us. And, awesome business community that we have. That supports what we do.
Appreciate you guys. Some big pictures.
That's all.
You got it the right way this time.
Do I have my home?
You got it right. Sure.
Thanks. Appreciate you guys.
Tyson, you can leave, Tyler has to stay.
We actually do have one more board spotlight.
We do have one more. We have a retiree amongst us. Most of you are aware of this. Dr. Niles, last board meeting, I guess you could come for fun. It'll be last time sitting on this side. We do. We appreciate him. And personally, I was thinking for the mentor he's been. I've made him promise not to block my number on July 1, so we'll see. But appreciate his friendship. We were talking earlier, sometimes your athletes go back and sign a one-day contract to retire with a team. You know, Dr. Dial was able previously. He's had opportunities to do different things and be in different places. We're appreciative and glad he was able to retire from here. Thank you. We appreciate you.
Take a picture.
Told Mr. Dalton today after we got done with meeting with Mrs. Payne, I said the key to success is you hire somebody smarter than you, and you've done
All right, now we're on the principal's report. So we will start with elementary principal, Dr. Clint Hall.
All right, so this is the last time we're going to do this. 8 years ago, I was brought here as a 26-year-old kid. Incredibly grateful for my experience here. I got to come home, serve kids in the same community that I grew up in, same building I was raised in. It's an experience I'll never forget. I'll always be grateful for it. I want to say thank you to this board, thank you to previous boards, thank you to the amazing staff members I worked with, thank you to the community, all the families, and most importantly, the kids. So, best of luck to you all next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know, I think I can speak for the board, but on this, but we do appreciate all you've done. And we're here for you. We wish you the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hall. Next is middle school principal, Mrs. Patty Nelson.
I'm just going to share a little bit about what's been going in our summer school classes. So in addition to our course completion, we've had some exciting activities that our teachers have planned. We couldn't do it without them, of course. Just to share a few, Miss Ray did science adventures and her class grew rock crystals. I had Miss Stillings, whose class designed a marble run. We have had, let me think here, Miss Britt, who did solar ovens, and then they also went fishing. I believe, Mr. Henry, you helped with that. We appreciate that very much. We have a Fun in the Sun class, and they got to go to the art show uptown and actually vote on the exhibits. So they were excited about that, helping pick the winners. And then we had Mrs. Pinkney, who did an art class, and they created and designed and built their own mini golf course. And if you looked on Facebook, there were pictures. They invited all of the elementary students who are in our building this summer to come and play putt-putt golf. So we've had lots of fun. We're going to end our last 2 weeks with Mrs. Johnson and Mrs. Benson is going to come and help us finish out our summer school session.
Thank you. Next is high school principal, Dr. Teresa Nash.
I'd like to say thank you to our class of 2021 parents and our community for project graduation and providing a safe night for our students on graduation night. We really appreciate all the community support, parent support with that. Summer school this year, we have 183 students. in the high school, which is more, if you look at our 5-year average, which is more than that, many previous years before that. So 183 students in the high school is a very good turnout, and we're glad to have them.
Thank you. Special Services Director, Mrs. Melissa Dalton.
Right now, our department's working on our core data, just getting all that turned into the state, our numbers for IEP students, discipline, graduation. We have some great PD sessions set up over the next few weeks. We have YF4 training by Mrs. Nelson. We have Amy Phipps coming in to provide IEP training to our teachers. And then we have Amanda Rubiello scheduled to come in and provide PE on behaviors and just how to address those with students. So we're really excited about that.
Thank you. Maintenance Director, Mr. Monty Valentine.
Fortunately, I've been removed from the kindergarten, always in classrooms. We finished up the first grade, always in classrooms today. We were going to take the law off and start the second grade. Everything's going to be good.
That's good, thank you. And Cafeteria Director, Yvonne Honorkamp.
Food from school is being going great. Kids are still loving the food. We're offering 2 options. We've got a main entree, and if they decide that they don't want that, or if we have any allergies, we're offering a salad or a wrap. We're kind of accommodating everybody as they need. It's been great working with all of the teachers and the principals and the staff. They've been wonderful. Got a little bit closer with all of them, less kids, so we were more able to get involved and talk. Got the kids involved in shucking corn, so we got corn on the cob on our produce truck. And Mrs. Heinlein and I think, trying to think who that is. Mrs. Ewing. They got involved in it too. We have our pictures posted on Facebook, and they all had a good time and got to enjoy the sweet corn. Our numbers have been uploaded. I forget what they are, been out in the sun in the hayfield, so my brain's kind of tired. But we're planning on finishing up the rest of the year with continuing with the food selections and open up next year with hopefully normal functioning is what Dr. Ballard spoke with me about. So looking forward to everything.
All right, thank you. Now we're on to Executive Administration Reports, Dr. Dial and Mr. Dalton.
So a couple things. The MSBA conference November 4th through the 7th in Kansas City. We need to know fairly quickly if you're going to be attending. So Mrs. Sterling can get you registered, rooms reserved. So send her an email by the end of the month. If you think you may be going, she can't always cancel, but sometimes it's hard to get registered if you don't tell her till later. So please let her know by the end of the month by sending her an email. We've had a good June, good end of the school year. Mr. Dalton and I are spending most of our time looking at ESSER 2 and ESSER 3. A couple of things. So ESSER 2 money is available, and we have used part of that. We drew down, because they have finished the kindergarten and first grade, and we got our first billing on asbestos, so we have drawn that first part of those dollars down. So we'll be able to take that, pay for it out of this fiscal year, and draw that money down in this fiscal year. ESSER 3, which is a large sum of money, is not available to districts yet. That has to go through an appropriations process in Jefferson City. So that could happen. It could happen next week when session's back in for a few days. More than likely, will not. It could happen during the veto session in September. That is a good possibility, but there has been some talk that it may not happen until next spring. So we may not have access to those ESSER 3 dollars until, won't be a year, I don't think, but it could be up to 9 months, in my opinion. The federal government has allocated the money, but it has to go through the appropriations at the state level before we can draw it down. We still will move forward with those projects. The district, I assume Mr. Dalton will, I guess I'm speaking for him, sorry. The district financially can float those for some time if it needs to, and then we can reimburse, because you can't draw down reimbursement all the way from March 2020. But we've had a good end of the school year, and are trying to make a smooth transition over the next week and a half. So Any questions that I can answer at this point?
Yes.
Okay.
We've talked a couple of times about the after-school food program.
Yes.
Is there any movement on that?
So that grant's going to be, should come available in July, but I will make sure I look at that tomorrow and make sure Mr. Dalton and Yvonne have that information. So, but yes, it usually opens up in July to start in the fall. I will look at that for sure tomorrow. But it's a good program.
Mr. Dalton?
It's all you.
Dr. Dial touched on some of the ESSER 3 work that we've been doing. Some guidance came out in the last couple of weeks on some requirements for school districts to be eligible for those funds. I know on some of these fundings, get the information out about the money first, and then hear the requirements afterwards. At least it seems that's the way that has worked in this case. So,
In every case.
yeah. Sometimes we know those early, but here they are. Now you can get to hear some of those requirements. But so we need to post online, which we already have, what they're calling the Safe Return to In-Person Instruction and Continuity of Services Plan. Now, that's targeted mainly, when you read through that, at districts that didn't offer seated instruction at any point. For us, we already had a plan in place where we did return to seated instruction. So to meet that requirement, honestly, just a revision of some of that information, some updating of some of that information. I've inserted a link just to navigate to the checkpoints that you have to have met in order to qualify for those funds. Part of that process is a review and update of that, which we went through during this past year anyway. Anytime you get updates from the CDC on a national level, you're looking at those guidelines. For us, our contact with local and state health departments, you're looking at those requirements, those guidelines. Anytime that information is updated, we will actually, as I've got that posted, I've got a form for feedback from community members. They can go on and offer comments and provide feedback on that plan. We'll formalize a committee to meet every 6 months. That's the specific guidance that you have to follow to continue to be eligible for those funds for the duration of time that they're available. Honestly, we updated ours more frequently than that this year, so that's not a concern. Just might formalize that process as we try to follow those guidelines. Heard him talk about the Grow Your Own program and some funding that's available specifically for that. I touched on that in May. Mrs. Swanish visited some schools there at the end of the school year to see what they're doing. I actually visited a school as far as the retention program that they have in place, as far as helping teachers pursue advanced degrees with some of the funding that's available there. Something else we're looking at locally as it ties into A+, looking at structuring that program a little more specifically for, I'll have 30, 40 kids go through A+ every year. Some just want to qualify for the scholarship for whatever degree program that they're going into. Some of them are interested in teaching. Going to coordinate with Mrs. Swanish and Mrs. Payne, and I visited about it today. Just being a little more organized as far as prepping those students for delivering instruction and tutoring and preparing them for that classroom experience. One, just to let them know what that's about as a teacher. Two, they'll be probably better equipped to help in those classrooms and help meet the needs of the younger students. But we just think that's an opportunity with a group we already have in place with that structure to maybe appeal to some students that want to pursue teaching. So that's some of the conversations we're having, some things we're looking at.
Capital projects.
One of the things that could also do to encourage people to go into education is there's up to $17,500 in loan forgiveness. So after they're A+, whatever they have in student loans, I think it's 5 years, they can get cash refund.
That's good.
Capital projects. So we got the results, the survey I sent out to everybody, and they came out like this. So fourth grade exterior doors was number 1 on the list. Number 2 on the list was the high school secure main entry. Number 3 on the list was the elementary kitchen dishwasher. 4 had a tie for, it was preschool parking lot expansion and the kindergarten wall replacement. So that's 4 and 5, they were tied. 6, middle school gym entrance concrete replacement. Number 7 is the asphalt ceiling, filling of cracks. And then 8 was elementary and high school drainage. 9 was carpet replacement in the high school business labs, office and library. And 10 was the middle school lockers. So Mr. Dalton and I were able to fit the first 7 items in the budget. So fourth grade exterior doors, high school main entry, preschool parking lot, elementary kitchen dishwasher, kindergarten playground wall replacement, asphalt ceiling, filling of cracks, and middle school gym entrance. I believe we're going to be able to pay for a few of those out of this year. So 7 out of the 10 are in the budget. We're hoping to get the preschool parking lot done still before the end of the month. Elementary kitchen dishwasher ordered before the end of the month. And the asphalt ceiling and cracking, we're going to try to get done actually next Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is the plan out of this year's budget. So we feel pretty good about that. Being able to fit 7 out of the 10 in the budget. And then if we can do 3 of those projects out of this fiscal year, we'll give you all room moving into next fiscal year, which we try to do every year if we can get some things done. Sorry, I didn't talk about that, should I?
Question.
Yes.
On our ESSER 3 fund, 20% that is for
Learning loss.
catching kids up. If we went ahead and did some of that now, or are we going to wait until the fund is actually, before we try to?
He can explain that because he hasn't, but yes, some of that now is correct.
And the answer is this: funds or not, some of that work needs to take place regardless.
Yeah.
So when we talk about professional development this summer, that's one of the things that's focused on. When we talk about some of the tutoring programs we're going to start the year with next year, that's what's going to be focused on. So that's a conversation we had. So what that looks like, we've got to fund that. It's a reimbursement basis anyway. Now, the part that gives me pause, as we talk about some of those ESSER 3 funds, probably in October, there is a scenario where it's not available to the following year. But a lot of that work needs to be done regardless.
But we can be refunded for what we do now.
Anything back to March of 2020. So the math intervention positions, the tutoring programs, the professional development this summer that we're moving forward with, we can draw down reimbursement to pay us back.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay, so we're on to discussion action items. A on the list is budget amendments for 2021 school year.
So this is a standard practice every June. We amend the budget to actual. We had a lot of grant funds. We had some more expenditures, but we had money come. It seemed like, especially in the beginning of school, we had a transportation supplement. We had money for expanding our internet, money for computers. So we have some shifting of funds. Actually, very comfortable where we ended up. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, but it's pretty boilerplate stuff. recommending to action. Actual revenues and actual expenditures. We will have a payment come in tomorrow, so that we will show.
So we would need a motion to accept the budget amendments for the 2021 school year as Dr. Dial has presented. Dan makes the motion. Do I have a second? Randy seconds. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor? Carries 7-0. Action item B, approval of 2021-2022 bus drivers.
So you have a list of contractors, drivers, and the substitutes that we currently have. We just need approval for them to drive for us next fall. We do not need to approve contracted rates because those are automatic in the contract. Actually, tomorrow they will go out in the mail. Their contract amendments will go out in the mail tomorrow, Monday, with their training dates, but the pay is already there. So we just need to approve the drivers.
Okay, so I would take a motion to approve the 2021-22 bus drivers. Do we need to abstain? Does anybody need to abstain from any of these bus drivers?
I don't think you have to, if it's a group.
If it's a group,
like that.
Okay.
It's all the teachers.
Okay, so Brandy makes a motion. Do I have a second? Seth seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Carry 7-0. Action item C, consider approval of bus purchase.
So as you know from my voicemail, there was an accident with one of our buses, not our bus's fault. It totaled 088 or 087, Tommy? 8. Tommy wasn't driving, but it totaled 088. I never can remember those two. On Dogwood Hill, the other driver's insurance company gave us $17,500 for that bus, which is fair market value. They used evaluations of 2 buses in Las Vegas and 2 buses in Washington, D.C. When I looked for that type of bus, I felt like that offer was very generous. Nobody was hurt, driver was okay. So we've got $17,500 for that bus. So I started looking for buses. Everything I was finding was $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 were the bids that I got, but I got a bid from Central States for a 2015 bus, which is just like our 141 and 142. They're 2014s, so this is a 2015 bus, but the same type of bus. It has 85,000 miles on it, but it is in good shape. It comes from Neosho, which has no gravel roads, and they park their buses under an awning during the day. So it only has driven paved roads and basically is parked inside during the day. The price on that bus is $34,290. I think that's a pretty good price on a bus.
What's that bus used for mostly?
So trips.
Activities?
Yes. So
Does it have air conditioning?
it does not. Our big one does, and that's the one that goes during the summer months. It does not have
I
air
don't think we
conditioning.
need another one with air conditioning.
So I asked, 17-1's not used all the, it's not used all the, it suffices for the hot weather trips that we take. So we get the whole football team on it, we get volleyball on it. So Ag takes that one in the summer when it's hot. So we're gonna have to replace 31 pretty soon, so if we decide we want another bus with air conditioning, we can absolutely do that. 31 was on the list, Tommy's happy about that. 31 was on the list to be replaced. Obviously, the accident necessitated getting a different one.
Change it. Okay.
Something else. That extra money with a prior approval can be used for purchase buses.
Yeah, if you're expanding routes.
If you're expanding around.
Correct. if you're expanding routes to keep less kids together, we are not. Yeah, that has to, if you're taking kids off buses to have less population on the bus, you can't use ESSER funds for that.
Then that's the requirement they didn't, that wasn't in the, on the internet.
Yeah, the first update.
Yeah. So maybe that's what the prior approved.
And we have budgeted for this amount of money. We actually budgeted a little bit more than that because I wasn't sure what the price was going to be when we did the budget. So this bus purchase is in the, it'll be delivered late July, but it is in the 21-22 budget.
So we need a motion to purchase this 2015 Bluebird Vision bus, I'm sorry, from Central States for $34,290. Chance makes the motion. Do I have a second? Seth seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carries 7-0. Action item D, resolution for Fund 4 transfer.
So this happens every year in July when the auditors are here. We have to move money to Fund 4 to pay for capital improvements and to pay for our lease purchases. And we authorize the superintendent to transfer a certain amount of money from Fund 1 to Fund 4. I would suggest that you approve for the superintendent to transfer up to $1.2 million from Fund 1 to Fund 4 as a process of the audit in July. Yes?
Can you try to explain to us again, as simply as maybe we can understand? I mean, we had the discussion that it was $500,000 or $600,000 that we transferred, and now we're 1.2.
So yeah. So we transfer, so routinely, the max transfer rule, so the max transfer rule has applied in the past several years. So we get that number from DESI, and that's about 650 to, depending on the years, 650 to $700,000 we transfer to Fund 4. We have $450,000 in lease purchases to pay off debt that we have to pay out of Fund 4, and then we pay capital projects. So any item or piece of equipment that costs $1,000 or more has to be paid for out of Fund 4. We try to carry about $1.2 million in that fund, $1 to $1.2 million in that fund each year. Because if you had a roof blow off, if you had a large air conditioner go down, you have to have money to repair it. It has to be taken out of Fund 4. So we are trying to build a Fund 4 balance with using ESSER funds to help us do that, to pay off our lease purchases early. Another possible way to get money to Fund 4 is to transfer your classroom trust fund money. So that is your CTF money that is part of your formula that is gambling money. Okay? It's in the casinos, it's in the lottery. That's how that money is generated. That is part of your formula dollars. You can transfer the amount of classroom trust fund money that you received in the 2009-2010 school year. Anything in excess of that has to go into Fund 2, which is teacher salaries. So we received $464,000 in 2009-10 in classroom trust fund money. So we can repay ourselves that 450 or 464, whatever you transfer, because you can draw money down through ESSER for salaries. So we would transfer it from, as it comes in, from Fund 1 to Fund 4, and then you would reimburse yourself through ESSER dollars. That's going to allow us to build a balance in Fund 4 that's going to allow us to pay off our lease purchases early, which in the 23-4 school year are approximately $1.5 million. So once we pay those off, that's going to cash flow back into the regular budget, $450,000 that can be used for whatever Mr. Dalton and the board whatever choose to use it for. So we will save on interest. We feel like it is a fiscally smart move. Did I explain that?
Always good as Kentucky.
Okay.
When we talk about, when we talk about how can we use one-time money to potentially have a long-term impact, this is that process. You gotta get enough in there to pay off that lease purchase. The earlier you pay it off, the sooner that $450,000 goes back into your cash flow.
I'll go back and watch the video over and over and over. These things.
Does that make sense? Okay. So that's why it is more than $1 million, because the 660 plus the 450, that max transfer can fluctuate a little bit. I want to give them some breathing room. So you may not use all 1.2, but I never used all of the 1. But if we could, we want to have that breathing room. Okay.
So I would take a motion to allow, Dr. Dial, allow Superintendent Mr. Dalton to transfer up to 1.2 million from Fund 1 to Fund 4. If anybody wants to make that motion. Seth makes a motion. Dan seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carry 7-0. Next is action item E, approve 2021-22 fiscal budget.
All right. So we're going to talk through some highlights of the budget projection for next year. You've got the details there. We went through in those study sessions to try to answer some of those questions. I've got those books over there for you guys. So we're going to start with revenues. As we looked at projecting that revenue at just over $14.6 million. You will look through some of that small growth in local tax revenue. Looking at some growth there with your foundation formula. Federal revenue is basically steady. Now that is excluding the ESSER funds. Obviously that is in excess of what we typically get in federal funding. So what you're seeing there is just over $1 million in ESSER 2 funds. So when we talk about those ESSER 3 funds, that money is not, you do not see that in there as revenue. You also do not see any of those expenses that would be tied there, with the exception of some reimbursements on some of that tutoring, the intervention spots that we talked about. So you're looking at just over 14.6 in revenue. Now, I'm going to quote Dr. Dial here as we've had these conversations. For me to sit here and say, now in all my years of doing the budget, that would be inaccurate, since this is one. You know, Dr. Dial's approach has been to be conservative on revenues. I've heard him say repeatedly, hey, I am as confident about, I say being aggressive on revenue, hey, I am confident in these numbers, being more aggressive in this projection than what you typically would do. Did I misspeak there? I'll let you go.
No, you didn't. So, and you know, and I am always conservative on revenues, and I'm not. I project expenses high. Expenses may be a little elevated here, but revenue, I think, is on target. It's as good, it's as close as I've ever made it.
As part of that revenue, I do want to talk about this just a little bit. So you hear us say ADA, our average daily attendance, and then you hear us say weighted ADA. So our average daily attendance, you know, that calculation looks like we literally track every minute for every kid that's in the school district enrolled at any point during the course of the year, whether that's just for 2 weeks at the beginning, they're here all year, 3 weeks at the end. But you take those minutes, you divide that by the 1,044 hours that the state has identified, and that's where you get your ADA. The old math teacher in me wants to say, the average number of students here on a given day, that's what average daily attendance is. For us, that number is down about 90 students over the year prior. Now, we'll then turn around and we talk about weighted ADA, and And that number is only 8 students fewer than what we're projecting now. Lots of factors that go into weighted ADA, free reduced lunch numbers, students receiving special services, those numbers. When you hear us talk about our increased enrollment in summer school, that impacts your weighted ADA. This year's summer school goes on our attendance for this coming year. So that's why that gap is not as large. So we're down 90 students on our ADA projecting, but we're just 8 students short on that weighted ADA number. Obviously, when we have re-enrollment, we count those, every student we get, that's a plus. But that's what some of the numbers that make up the revenue. We look at the budget, or the expense numbers, 14.4, just over 14.4 million. Now, I did leave out, we did actually get, late yesterday, our revenue number's gonna be a little bit lower from local.
Correct. 72,000.
Just over, just under $72,000 less.
Mistaken
We didn't put that in there today, or yesterday to today. So 14.4 in expenditures. Dr. Dial just hit on a lot of that with capital projects. You've got an additional $387,000 in salaries that we approved last month. Just talk about the school bus that we had to purchase. That wasn't initially in the plans. You know, some of those capital projects, the asbestos, it fits directly into the ESSER dollars. So that's something we can get reimbursed for. Some of those other projects do not, but once we have access to ESSER 3 loan, you asked that question. As we can reimburse for some of that additional tutoring and training, it opens up some additional funds potentially there. So what you're looking at is a surplus budget of just under 800, or I'm sorry, just under $190,000, 188, 229. Dr. Don, you typically prefer to practice has been, I'm going to be very conservative revenues, I'm going to be very aggressive on expenses, so we've got a working margin, so you know that I can handle worst case scenario. Now keep in mind, when I look at that, you're talking about $188,000 surplus, folks, that's with $1 million in revenue that is not recurring. Those ESSER dollars, we do have some projects in here that we otherwise probably wouldn't have taken on. But you take that money out that we normally don't get, you pull those projects off, then you're looking at a budget that's more in line with what I think Dr. Dow is typically a $400,000 or $500,000 deficit. But considering those factors, that's what you're looking at. Questions? I know something else I have mentioned as we've had these meetings. If we get to October and we have access to those additional funds, some larger districts, when they're just dealing with larger budgets and they see significant swings, they will do budget amendments during the course of the year. You know, for us with our budget, that process has been at the end of the year to look at that budget amendment. If we see we get access to those funds and there's something we want to take on, that's something we may look at as a budget amendment mid-year, just because that would significantly impact funding some projects we could look at. Again, that's on a reimbursement basis, so it's not like you're just going to have $2 million in cash flow. You're reimbursing for things that you can afford to spend on at that time.
You got to be able to carry it for 30 days. You got to be able to carry the project for 30 days. By the time you got the check, then get reimbursed.
Questions on that?
Just hope here are no questions. I would take a motion to approve the 2021-22 fiscal budget as presented.
I have
Okay.
there's a deal we need to address before we approve the budget. I'll make a motion that we increase the non-certified staff from the 3.51 that we did the last time up to 5% before we approve the budget.
Okay, Dan made a motion to increase the certified staff from
The
3.51%.
non-certified from 3.51 up to 5%.
Non-certified, up to 5% on this budget. Is there a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
Troy seconds. Any discussion?
When we voted on it, there was pretty much consensus from everybody up here that they wanted to do the same for everybody across the board. Everybody want to treat everybody equal. Well, actually, the teacher raise is 5%, and we gave the non-certified 3.5%. So if you want to treat everybody equal, you're going to have to vote for the non-certified to be 5%.
Is that accurate?
Here's the 5%.
Be the 5%.
1,500 plus 75.
Steps. So now here's something to keep in mind. Non-certified has a process in place. Once they're placed, they get raises during the course of the year based on that experience.
I'm just telling you that.
Yeah. So, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, you're probably going to say something. The 1,500, Lowell asked Dr. Dial to explain it to you guys last time. Comes up to, if you do an average, maybe $675. So the total raise that you're giving the certified staff is $2,175 about.
If they are on the 670, it's either 2,000 or 2,175. Depending on the step they're on.
Because of the step.
Because some steps are 500,
If
some
you're-
steps are 675.
If you're a teacher, say a 13-year teacher with a master's, which I think 13 is about our average.
It's 2,175.
2175, and they make less than $44,000, so 22,000 divided by, 2,200 divided by 44,000 is 5%.
So how we figure the 3.51 is we take every teacher across the board, where they're placed on the salary scale. We apply the raise to them, and that's how we come up with the percentage, the 3.51%. So it's equal across the board. Some get more than 351, some get a little less. Depending on if you're down here, then 2175 is not as big as if you've got 25 years experience, and then if you are in step 1 or 2.
I'm going to have to see that because
He's got the spreadsheet. But that's how we do it. It used to be just off step 1 and 2, or from step 1 to step 2. That wasn't fair. So that's why we put everybody in this spreadsheet, figured out what they were going to make, and if we gave them a raise, what they would make. And we took all of those together and came up with the percentage.
So the average, that's the way I've understood it, that we've done this before, correct? This is the way we've done it just about every year. Given what it is not every teacher gets a 3.51%, but that is the average raise.
The average teacher salary is for that given year.
Yes.
Yeah.
if you take a beginning teacher with just a bachelor's degree coming in, and you give them one step, you've increased them $500. $500 divided by 31,000 is still almost 5%.
And then
You give them a
you get a
1,500
it's
plus-
a bigger increase on the bottom than it is at the top. That is correct, Stacy. Okay? If you go down,
Right.
So a teacher on this salary and tell me it's not more than 3.51.
Right here.
Which one?
No, I'm sorry, the staff, probably the staff. Those folks don't get a staff. Max staff.
So I
So
don't
there'll be some teachers, I think that's what you're going, I know there are some teachers that won't get a step because they're either maxed out because they haven't got their masters or whatever it is, right? So they'll still get the 1,500, is that correct? But they're not going to get the step because they're maxed out.
One minute again.
so our salary schedule stops after, if you don't have your master's degree, you should continue down, but you don't get the step increase for years of experience. You max out. It encourages you to go over and get a master's degree. Somewhere on like year 10.
The way it seems like, and correct me, this is the way I've looked at it, it seems like we're not, the state isn't requiring, yes, he's not requiring teachers to get masters but encouraging them through this salary schedule that they do max out if they don't. If they don't. Is that correct?
But I'm just, these folks are getting less than that. I'm not sure. I get 3.5 across the board.
Is the math right at 3.5?
Yes.
I would be willing to entertain stuff like this if it was brought to us. We've had a month in between our last meeting. I'd be willing to entertain things if I had it in front of me to where I could see it and had a process behind it, what I need to be looking at and have all the documentation in front of me.
I didn't think it'd be a problem to me, you know, maybe I'm gonna be wrong, but I don't think so. It's gonna be at least 40%. I don't have the new teachers, I don't know how many new teachers we got, but I wouldn't think there'd be enough to keep it down to 3.5%.
How much chance?
The more new teachers you have, the higher it goes.
Yeah, right. It's the ones higher on that.
You can't take any teacher up here. Most all tenured teachers are going to have masters, so they're going to continue to get their steps. So basically, you're saying that they don't get steps because they're not getting the salary increase. Well, I didn't say that. Teachers aren't getting a raise because based on their education. If they've been here 8 years, they get, well, like, let's just do the BS degree. You reach stuff like that.
I'm not saying this is a bad idea. I'm saying if we could have brought it to Dr. Dial or Mr. Dalton beforehand and show the impact on our budget that they just put together and spent hours going over us, you know, they took a lot of time showing us the budget and how it was going to work and everything's there. If we could have had it to look at and then go, hey, here's what Dan wants to do, here's the impact, other than just bringing it up blindsided in a meeting. I'm all about being fair, but show me where it's going to hit our budget.
I didn't think it'd be an issue because to me it's pretty good and dry.
Well, it might not have been if you could show it to us. Have them show it in the budget. Well, like I said, we can make amendments to the budget. Right. If we can put something together and you show us, hey, it looks great, it's fair, I'm not against it. I don't want to vote on something just off the seat of my pants hearing it for the first time, and it looks like there's confusion here, honestly. I mean,
can we come back and address that after this board meeting once we approve the budget?
Yes. Legally, you can, yes.
So at this point, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
So I can withdraw my second.
Yeah, you could.
I'll withdraw my second.
Okay, withdraw the second. So,
And I'll withdraw my motion.
okay, so we withdraw the motion. So what we're back at is the budget as presented. Do I have a motion to approve the motion, the school year budget, fiscal budget for 21-22 as presented by Mr. Dalton? Randy makes that motion. Do I have a second? Chance seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Carry 7-0. Now we're on to F we amended it earlier in the meeting. So the new F on our agenda is the approval of the high school secure entry.
So as I told you, it's number 2 on the capital projects list. So Greg Crawford Construction did the elementary. He's from 9, right? He did the elementary construction and demo. He's done a lot of work in our school system. built several of our buildings, but he actually has put a bid in exactly what it, or really close to what it was for the elementary. And with materials, I was concerned about that. He has bid to do the high school secure main entry for $52,300, which is demolition, masonry, structural steel, removal of debris, new glass, doors, electronic entries. The only thing we would have to do is get him power and paint where he put the new block in. So Greg does a good job. He works with our current security company, NetWatch, and people that are going to put in our fourth grade doors as well. So. And he can get to it too.
So you need a motion. So we would take a motion for approval of Greg Crawford Construction to do the secure upgrades at the Ava High School entry.
Is that included in your capital
Yes.
improvements already?
Yes.
We voted on?
Yes. Yeah, it's included, because we took those capital, we fit all those capital projects in there that we can approve.
So we're having to take another vote to do it then, or?
Because it's over $25,000, I can't approve it. Yeah, I have to have approval if it's over 25. That's why.
And that was for 52,300. Do I have a motion? Seth makes a motion. Do I have a second? Randy seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carries 7-0. New action item G is MSBA 2021A policy update.
These were presented to you last month and then uploaded again for this month. These are all critical, so they're all state law changes or federal mandates. There's 10, I think. 10.
I went over them last month. Did they change the?
They did not. Okay. No. It's the same thing. I just give it to you a month
Right.
prior.
Okay. Just double check.
Yeah.
I didn't have time to re-look at it.
So I would take a motion to approve the MSBA 2021A policy update. Chance makes a motion. Do I have a second? Dan seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carries 7-0. Action item H, MSBA 2021B update.
So, got A, now we have B. So, same thing, not a vote. They're in your board packet for you to look at. There's only 3, and it has to do with virtual courses. I gave that policy to Mr. Dalton. I don't want to throw you under the bus yet, but you have to throw under the bus. But they'll review that, and if there's any changes, recommendations, they'll bring that to you later for your approval.
So no motion needed there, just
Nope.
in our packet to look
Yep.
at. We'll be dealing with that at a later date. So any discussion on that? Next item is I, approval for the superintendent to approve July bills.
So this didn't happen last year because we had a brand new board. I know several people take vacation in July. If you did not want to meet in July, you would have to give the superintendent approval to pay the July bills. Obviously, he sends those to you prior to then going out to BJ cutting those, but that is the action you would need to take in order to not meet in July because there are bills to pay. And it's routine bills.
Would anyone like to make a motion to allow Mr. Superintendent, Mr. Dalton, to approve the July bills? Brandy makes that motion. Do I have a second? Seth seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carries 7-0. last item is J, scheduled tax rate hearing August 17th, 2021 at 6:15 a.m.
So that is a Tuesday. We moved it from a Thursday to a Tuesday because we have open house on Thursday night. So administrators could be at the open houses. So that is a Tuesday instead of Thursday. You'll still have executive session, I assume, at 5:30. But your tax rate hearing will be at 6:15 and your regular session will be at 6:30. I will not be in attendance. Unless you want me to get some.
All right, so need to set that, so we need a motion to set the tax rate hearing August 17th, 2021 at 6:15. That should be PM. Preferably. Do I have a motion? Chance makes a motion. Do I have a second? Seth seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carries 7-0. Next. Okay.
That's all right.
Yes.
So I just want to thank you guys. 5 years, I think. 11 years total. We haven't always agreed, but I think your hearts are in the right spot, and I hope you think my heart's in the right spot. I appreciate you, each and every one of you, and past board members that have been here as well. So I feel like, I said this in my resignation letter, I feel like we're in a better spot today than we were when I got here. That's because of the great people that work in this district. I said this earlier, I think a great leader hires people that are smarter than them, and I definitely did that. When I got to hire Mr. Dalton, he definitely did that when he hired Mrs. Payne. So you guys are in great hands. He knows that I'll be there to answer any question, but it is his show to run. But I'll be there to help in any way I can. So, thank you.
I'd like to thank you, Dr. Dodd, for your leadership in the school and what you've done since you've been here. Thank you very much. All right, so our next regular board meeting is August 17th, 2021 at 6:30. Of course, the 6:15 will be the tax rate hearing prior to that.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Lowell makes a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Dan seconds. Any discussion on adjourning? Hearing none. All those in favor? Carries 7-0.
So two motions you
Thank
made
you.
tonight, is adjourn executive session, adjourn.
So I wish I knew what.
Yeah.